So, for my project, I'll be comparing gender roles and gender stereotypes in Little Women and Sex in the City. And my project aims to explore how the historical gender roles in women and the contemporary gender roles in Sex in the City are similar and dissimilar in how they overlap. And I'll be comparing characters Jo and Samantha and how society and gender norms influences their actions. And I'll also be comparing Meg and Charlotte and their views on marriage and home life. And I'll also be looking into how characters in Little Women challenge or reinforce the cult of domesticity. And I'll also be exploring how society's expectations puts pressures on the characters from Little Women and Sex in the City. For my literature review, I use literature to gain a further understanding of the cult of domesticity, and in doing so, I learned that it really preaches that women should be submissive and that they should be self-sacrificing and that they should be devoted to their husbands. So the target audience for Little Women includes young women and women of all ages. And one of the sisters, Meg, takes on the stereotypical role of becoming a housewife and raising her children while her husband provides for them financially. But other characters like Jo, she's the complete opposite. She lives child-free and she pursues her career in writing, and she is financially independent and in fact actually provides for her family financially while her father is away fighting in the Union. I'd say in that aspect, Meg embraces more aspects of the cult of domesticity while Jo refuses it altogether. In the movie, the character Amy, she talks about, or she has a monologue where she explains her oppression to her friend Lori. She talks about how she is legally bound, that women are legally bound to their husbands economically, and how if she has children or money, it will all belong to her husband. And Jo expresses her frustrations about the oppression she deals with. She talks about, in this quote up here in the upper right-hand corner, she says that women have hearts and minds and they've got talent as well as beauty, but she's so tired that people say that love is all a woman is fit for. And I'd say Jo goes against the gender norms of the time. She strongly dislikes the idea of marriage and yearns for independence. And I think Jo's independence is inspiring, and Amy's monologue is eye-opening and really shows what the women of the time were going through. And the target audience for Sex in the City include women in their 20s and 30s. And the show is mainly about four characters, Charlotte, Miranda, Samantha, and Carrie, exploring the Manhattan dating and hookup scene as they go to work and go out to dinners. There's many stereotypes in Sex in the City, such as, women's lives revolving around men, the aspiration for love and marriage, labeling sexually active women as precarious. The characters in the show are constantly talking about men, and there's pressure on the women in the show to settle down, and get married. But characters like Samantha reject that altogether, and other characters like Charlotte really do want to get married and have children. And in the show, I would say that there is a power imbalance. They constantly talk about women in their 30s wanting to get married, and there's a quote up here in the upper right-hand corner. It talks about one of the toxic bachelors talks about how men have all the power and that women are wanting to get married, and he calls it a mid-30s power flip. But I think that the ideas perpetuated in the show are both positive and negative. I think that a woman's ability to be financially independent and career-driven is positive, but reinforcing the idea that women who engage in hookup culture are precarious and have no self-respect, I think that that's negative and harmful. I would say that the relationship between men and women financially is pretty uneven, because men are the financial providers in the movie, while women are expected to be homemakers and care for the children. But I think the relationships are nuanced. For example, Jo and Professor Bear evolve from an intellectual relationship to a romantic one, and they both love literature and appreciate each other's intellect, while they're both hardworking. They both appreciate and respect each other eventually, despite their differences. And the relationships between the male and female characters is also complex in Sex in the City. For example, Miranda and Steve have to co-parent functionally while raising their son, and they do their best to make it work to ensure their son's well-being. And I'd say that Samantha and her partners do challenge traditional gender norms, but respect is typically present. But overall, I do think that the characters cooperate and respect each other, although it can be rocky at times. And here I'm comparing and contrasting the differences between Meg and Charlotte and their views on traditional gender roles. See, Meg and Charlotte both want marriage, they both want children, and they both generally embrace traditional gender roles and independence. And Charlotte wants a sort of perfect fairy tale ending type of love, and she often speaks of traditional values and relationships and wanting a family. But Meg is constrained to 19th century gender roles and gender stereotypes, as opposed to Charlotte. She really is able to have more freedom because she lives in the 20th and 21st century. And Charlotte's able to have a career, and she struggled when she left her career for a more traditional route, and she struggled to fully embrace it. And overall, Meg did not have as many opportunities as Charlotte because of the time period. And here I'm comparing Jo and Samantha. See, Jo and Samantha are both very passionate about their careers and very ambitious in their careers. But their differences are that Jo is restrained by 19th century gender roles, and while Jo does resist marriage in the beginning, she ends up getting married, unlike Samantha. See, Samantha's not restrained by 19th century gender roles. Samantha's shaped by 20th century and 21st century feminist movements, and Samantha does not end up getting married, and she embraces her sexuality and is able to enjoy greater freedoms compared to Jo. I would say Little Women portrays a more traditional view on gender roles and gender stereotypes compared to Sex and the City. Characters like Jo and Samantha push back on traditional gender roles and gender stereotypes, but characters in Little Women are confined to 19th century gender roles, unlike Samantha and Charlotte. And overall, in Little Women, they're confined to having to get married to find financial stability, unlike in Sex and the City. And if I had children, I'd want them to learn about sex roles from Little Women, and I'd want to wait for them to get older to watch Sex and the City. And I do think Jo's drive and ambition and Samantha's drive and ambition to become successful is very inspiring, and Samantha's sexual freedom is also inspiring as well. And some stereotypes that surprised me were in Sex and the City, they really push that women are fashion obsessed and that sexually liberated women are viewed as promiscuous. And here are my references. Thank you so much.